Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now we continue our conversation on land ownership and associated problems. Yesterday we talked about how some residents of Botiano, how they shared their stories with us, as well as the expert advice that we had from Executive Director of Kolandef, Nana Ama Yura. Well, this campaign is continuing till hopefully something happens. Today we have the Lands Commission officials as well as Nanama again in the studio, and we're asking you to share your questions and your thoughts. If you have any land-related questions, you have a very huge platform today for you to share it with us. We're giving you the numbers already. It's 0505 646 6330. That's 0505 646 330. Share that with us right now. So I'll be talking to them. Like I said, they are already in the studio. But first, let's go over to the Lands Commission and listen to Eunice Opoku. She's Assistant Communications Officer. She has a message for everyone.
If you do not want to be part of the many problems that come with land registration and all that, the many land litigations, the land guardism problem we experience in the country, what you have to do is that when you see a parcel of land that you're interested in, you don't buy it just as you're buying ordinary commodities or ordinary products on the market. But what you request for is a site plan. It's the first and foremost step that you need to really look at. If you are interested, request a site plan from the landowner. Whoever claims to be the owner of the land should give you a site plan. If he doesn't have, just come straight to the Lands Commission and then request the services of a surveyor who would go with you to the land and then pick the coordinates, as in doing the picking. And then we have all the information on the land. You come back to conduct a search. Conducting a search with the Lands Commission basically means that you are doing some investigations into the land. You want to confirm who is the right owner of that parcel before you get yourself involved. You don't pay money until you are sure you are getting it from the right source. And so the message is pretty simple. Have you conducted your search? Have you been to the Lands Commission before paying for any parcel of land? Don't do it if you haven't. Please ensure that you have your site plan with you. Come to the Lands Commission. We have able staff who would assist you with the search. You have all the information. Remember, we are custodians of land records in all the country. We will be able to tell you exactly what transactions have gone on in the past. And so, based on the information you get, you can make an informed decision as to whether to go on or stop a transaction. So it is pretty simple. Do a search. If we want the problems to come down, as we also try hard to actually bring the time for registration down, the general public needs to help the Lands Commission to deliver on our core mandate.
So that's Eunice Opoku. She's a communications officer, assistant communications officer at the Lands Commission. Well, I have one of the technocrats here as well who help us with the conversation. Nanama Yura is here as well. We've been talking to someone at Botiano, where yesterday you saw the confusion that was ongoing there. Matilda Womega has been interacting with some of them.
Most of us did not go to Lands Commission to do any verification.
Why didn't you do that?
Yes, because...
Is it that you didn't know or you thought it was genuine, so there was no need for that?
Yeah, from my few experiences, I bought land at OUB which didn't materialize and other places. So I realized that going to, in Accra, if you want to buy land, going to the Lands Commission to do checks is even confusing. But
wow.
Yeah, because when you come to where the land is situated and you do your investigations, ask the neighbors, those around, they are able to tell you the truth about the land. You get to know more about the land, whether you are safe to buy or not. Then again, if you start doing something on the land and somebody comes up or not, that should also tell you whether you are buying a safe land or not.
Okay, so let's start the conversation right now. Now it's 0505 646 330. That's 0505 646 330. Some of you have already started calling that line. Please don't call that line. Just send me a WhatsApp. Now, you can call us on this number, though. That's 0302 211 688. If you call and you have a specific land issue, you want a specific question you want answers to, we can take some answers for you. That's 0302 211 688. That's the phone number. and the WhatsApp line is 050 564 6330. All right. You're welcome, gentlemen. Sorry. You're welcome, gentlemen and ladies. So, Timothy Anyidoho is a man we spoke to here on the show yesterday. He's Principal Administrative Land Officer. Right, I got it. And then Nana Mayura, who was also here yesterday, she's with Colandef. Colandef is an NGO. They're looking to improve our land tenure system in Ghana. So, some people are already asking questions. I really want to focus on the questions that people have. So I'm just going to start there and then. So let me begin with this one. This one says, I think that government needs to look at the state of insecurity in the country critically because it's becoming too much. So you're linking it to all the issues, the land issues that come with land litigation. This one says, how do you prevent two people owning one land at a particular place? It's coming from Fiam Nogo in Abo. How do you prevent two people from owning one land? Let me start with you, since this falls directly on your lap. If you have any introductory remarks you want to make, please go ahead.
Well, I think the conversation started yesterday, and I'll commend Nana for starting the conversation, and we appreciate her views. Well, the question about two people owning the same land. Yeah. To understand that problem, you must understand who owns the land. Okay. And as we were discussing, about 80% of land in Ghana is owned by traditional authorities, either families or schools or individuals. So there's a certain base that we must start the discussion with. If a person owns land and doesn't sell to two different people, the problem doesn't arise.
But we know that people sell to 2, 3, 4.
Yes, so the problem is who is giving and who is dishonest enough to start the trail of selling the same parcel of land to 2 or 3 people. So it's not something that necessarily can be stopped from our point of view, but it's for those who are granting it. And in fact, it's labeled, it's seen as a crime even under the act, our acts. Yeah. Both the 152 and the 122.
That's fraud.
It's fraud. Yeah. And it's the people selling. You must be honest enough to sell one. And yesterday, when we were discussing it, we talked about the customary land secretariats, which is one. Sometimes the issue arises not because the intention is to defraud another, but it's because of lack of information. So a predecessor of us too sold the land to somebody. He passed, a new chief has come, the land is bare. He views it as land that is vacant because nothing has been done on the land. Then he goes ahead to assign it to somebody. Yet that person bought it, never registered, never developed it, and has left it bare. So sometimes it's that lack of information that on the succession that leads to.
Okay, and the same person says, how can someone know that a particular land has been bought already from the same person? I'll let you handle it again, and then I'll come to Nanama for.
When we were having a discourse yesterday, we said you do a search as we discussed.
Yeah.
But Lands Commission is limited by the information that it has. So there may be some information that it's on the ground that we don't have. If you've bought and you've not registered, Lands Commission would not know. So it's critical, as I advise, that you are buying a parcel of land. It's situated somewhere. You go onto the land and make some small inquiries from the neighbors. If you are lucky and some caretakers are around, somebody may hint you, oh, this land, or you see some foundation in some corner, some pillars. Those are the first telltale signs that should advise you. Maybe there must be some problem there. That should be done before, in relying also on the search before you go ahead.
Before you go ahead.
Yes,
Nanama, do you have any comments to add?
Yes, I think exactly what Timothy said is what is supposed to be the situation. But I think what I want to add is that the state has a certain responsibility. It is not the case that it is just the role or the responsibility of the traditional leaders to bring about this problem of double sale. No, but the state also has a responsibility. The truth is that within our laws, yes, the customary land authorities are responsible for land acquisition and land disposal. And therefore, if there are double sales incidents in the areas, then we can blame it squarely to the traditional leaders.
Now that you mention it, are there any sanctions? Is it just blames we can do?
No, so I'm making a point.
Okay, please go
So
ahead.
my point is that, much as that is true, we live in a country where the land governance policies and regulations and laws also enjoins the state agencies to play a certain role.
And yesterday, that is where I talked about the delink, the disconnection. So yes, I am a traditional leader. I have custody of traditional lands, and I have the mandate under the Constitution to give it out. But the state also has a responsibility to keep accurate records, to help sensitize the public, to help give out public information on lands, so that if the two are working together, it brings a good connection and it avoids some of these things. If, for example, as a country, the state responsibility of ensuring that there is access to public information on land ownership, it begins the whole process, so that if you have an area, a traditional area, and you have a traditional leader, that traditional leader and every land he occupies, there should be a record of it in the Lands Commission, because as he mentioned yesterday, the Lands Commission is a custodian of all records on land. And therefore, there should be that linkages. If the traditional leaders are not bringing that information, because that is what we always get, then what are we doing as a state to make it a requirement for such information to be given? So it's really difficult to say that we just have to blame it to the traditional leaders. We want to ask ourselves what we are doing.
Whether we've created a system for the traditional authorities as well to help the process rather than
instead of just waiting for anyone who wants to present to just bring it.
Okay, so let me just announce the number again. The numbers that you can call on 0302 2111 691. That's 0302 2111 691 or 0302 22111 692. That's 0302 2111 692. And your WhatsApp message is already coming through. This message says, I bought a land about 4 to 5 years ago from a company. You mentioned the name. I'm not quite sure, so I'll just hold on for a while. It says that I don't know whether the company was a scam or not, but I've been trying to call them. I can't get to anyone. I've been to the office where I purchased, but they say the company is no longer there. They've relocated from Tema to East Legon. I went to East Legon. All I got told that they had left. So as it stands, I don't know where my land is or where the company is. I've been chasing them for years for a refund, but it's like I'm chasing a ghost. Can you help track them down to retrieve my money or my land? I've been chasing them for years and years, but nothing. Any advice on this, or is it a dead end for her?
It's purely contractual, and he must seek, because he doesn't have evidence of what he's bought. He doesn't have anything evidencing that transaction, and therefore will be limited by
And therefore, it's important for the public to remember that acquisition of land is not like acquisition of any other material object, where you say, I have negotiated for this phone. It costs so much. I've paid for it. I've taken it, and I've taken it back to my. It's not like that. It's about a certain interest you acquire in the land. And after you have negotiated for that interest, the physical surface of the land will still be there. So you need to take your time, do the investigation as it's being recommended. In fact, even if the Lands Commission does not have records on that particular parcel, like Timothy said, do some conversations with people around
there. Let me interrupt you and bring in Joshua. Joshua is calling from Tamale. Hello, Joshua.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, please. I have a land issue, and then I'm just trying to bring it on board.
Please go ahead. Let's see how we can advise.
Yes, please. I bought a land around 2007.
Around where?
2007.
2007. 2007. Okay.
Yes. And the chief then said he has misplaced the numbers, the plot numbers. And so therefore I should give him some time to look for them.
Okay.
In fact, it took him last year. He told me he got the numbers, and so therefore I should bring some money for him to give me a site plan. I quickly released the money for the site plan. He did the site plan, and it took him another year to this year for him to now give me the papers from So currently we are on the papers, and I'm just getting frustrated about the whole thing. So even the numbers of for him to give me the site plan, he said if he wants to bring somebody from the land commission to come and do it, he gave me a certain huge amount that I can pay. And this year, even the papers he wants to do for me from the chief palace is too huge for me. And so I don't know from the
You mean he's asking you to pay more?
Yes, he's asking me to pay more, and I'm trying to know what the is he the site plan that is first, after the site plan, which one is next, so that I just get all my documents from them and then sell the land off, and then I'm paid from them.
Okay, please note this question. Let me take Nanan Ketia from Takrady, and then we'll answer those two questions. Nanan Ketia.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. I am a chief myself. As far as this land disputes and land issues are concerned, one thing I'm realizing is that the state itself and the institution itself does not respect the chieftaincies. They don't respect the chiefs. Why am I saying this? There have been so many instances that chiefs has given lands to institutions and then government institutions and all those stuff. And when they want to use it for another purpose, they don't even inform the chiefs.
You think that's the reason? You think that's the reason why we're having a lot of land litigations?
All these things have been going on.
Looks like we've lost Nanan Ketia there. I will take the final call. Nana, are you there? Are you done? Okay, we lost him. Bernard is calling from Oduma State Krobo. So we have Nanan Ketia from Takrady, who talks about by government and the fact that he actually thinks that and he actually thinks that government disrespects the chieftaincy institution. Okay, Bernard will be last for this batch, so we take the answers. Bernard Odumase, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Please, I bought the land, registered it, all right, I did a site plan, but I'm yet to do the indenture. I wish to ask whether the land will be taken from me if I don't do the indenture.
Whether the land will be given to you if you don't do the indenture?
No, whether it will be taken from me if
whether
I don't
it will be taken from you if you don't do the indenture. Over what period?
Yeah, I bought it, all right, did the registration to the commission. But yet to do the indenture.
Okay, but you are yet to do the indenture by asking if the land can be taken away from you without the indenture.
Yes, please.
And I'm asking, how long do you want to wait to do the indenture? Okay, so hang on. Let's take these answers. Let's start with him.
So we'll start with him. You can't do a registration without an indenture. As he says. So it will be interesting to know which kind of indenture he's talking, which kind of registration he's talking about. So my advice to him is quickly get the indenture done. The indenture is a contract between the parties, and that will spell out the interests, what is given to you, the terms, and all that. So that's critically what governs the agreement between the parties, and it's important that he does that.
So whatever he has is not registered. No,
so he says he has a
whatever
site
he has
plan.
Done is a site plan.
Yes, but I don't know which form of registration.
Okay, so it means that he can't
do with the site plan alone.
You cannot do a registration. Okay, and then the next one said you want to say something about that.
It's important to let the public know that when we talk about land documentation, we are talking about both the indenture, which is a contract, and the site plan. The two together is what gives you a complete land documentation, which you can register.
If you don't have both, then you don't have
both, then you don't have, because the site plan only describes the parcel, but the contract is what is found in the lease, in the document. I mean, what they call indenture. Within the indenture, it describes the term of the period for the ownership, the conditions that you need to occupy the land with, and the description of the parties that entered into the contract, and so on and so forth. So you need both to be able to give you clarity on what you have acquired and how you can use and occupy that land.
Okay, then Nana Nketia was talking about, you know,
Yes,
the point you made about how government takes the land and they don't. Recently, the Chiado, there's a big issue there at Chiado. They say government took a lot of the land and they've not even settled them on compensation.
I totally understand what Nana Nketia is saying, and I know that it is an issue within our country. You know, the laws allow governments to acquire land compulsorily for public interest. And the Lands Commission is a state agency that acts on behalf of governments to transact and to be able to manage these lands. So what should happen is that if there is any public agency that requires land for any purpose for the interest of the public, the Lands Commission acts on behalf of these agencies and transacts the land, and after that, you know, allocates to the respective agencies. It should be that before the acquisition is done, there is discussion, the free, prior, informed consent. Those principles must apply. So the government power of eminence domain does not mean the government just occupies the land and has no conversation with the people. No, it should be through conversation and dialoguing on the acquisition and the compensation arrangements, both to the traditional leader and to the people previously occupying the parcel.
Okay.
When that is concluded, then there is an agreement and an understanding on what the purpose is that the government is going to use. All of these must be spelled out. But in many cases, what happens is that the land is acquired. In some cases, some of the people in the area don't even know there has been an acquisition.
Okay.
And all they see is that activity is ongoing in the area, and when you ask, they say government has acquired.
Okay.
And in many cases also, you have some government agencies who have taken
over those lands
without recourse to the Lands Commission.
It will be interesting for us to answer that her suggestions are good, but there are laws that govern acquisition in this country. And as a interaction with the people is critical, it's a critical part of the acquisition process. So there's no way government would acquire land without interacting with the people. The problem is that the acquisition process may span over a period.
Exactly the point I was going to make. So if it did in 1965.
So it started over a period. So sometimes the next challenge may be that since he has become a chief, he may not have seen that come of. But there's no way you can acquire land in this country and circumvent the process before you do an EI. There's always.
But people have complained that is being done over and over again.
It is not the laws that govern acquisition. What we call the site advisory committee has to go to the land. All those things are things that have to be satisfied even before the Attorney General will ascend to an EI.
So for those at Chad, for example, who are having this matter, I mean, how do they?
So there are undertones. When government acquires land, let's understand what we acquire land for. It's for various purposes. We all take light from Akosombo. Akosombo was acquired for all of us. So government may acquire land for various purposes. The Chado issue, without going to specifics, a lot of land has been acquired from the La people for the military. So there's some undertones and complaints. But before government would acquire that land for the cemetery, whatever it wants, they would have done some interaction. Sometimes the challenges are that you are taking too much of our land. And like she complained about, compensation may have not been fully satisfied. And compensation is a one-off payment. So usually it's paid to some generation. There are novelties like Tema, the Tema acquisition, where we pay what we call annuities, annual payments to the Tema people. So in the Tema case, we pay annually. They get rents out of the land that was acquired for the whole Tema township.
I think that this part about government acquisition is a whole day's conversation.
Yes, and to conclude it, Nana should be assured that the Constitution foresaw the importance of chiefs. That's why in Article 258 it says, as even part of the Lands Commission, as is constituted, both national and regional, there's representative for the National House of Chiefs. So it is not because something has been done ignoring the chiefs, acknowledging that they are the traditional owners, they are represented on the commission.
Well, like I said, I really want to answer as many questions as possible for our viewers so that they will find this conversation helpful. There was this gentleman who called earlier who talked about he had plot numbers. He got the plot numbers from the chief, and then later on the chief kept asking for more money for papers, for this paper. And what's happening?
That
Do you understand?
Clearly a transaction that I was saying. He was talking about plot numbers. Plot numbers have to do with the planning, and it has to do with what is now LUPSA, land use planning, and special, what we call the town and country planning. You need an area planned before you can sell it out. So ideally, the chief should have dealt with that before he starts transacting. So maybe that's why he was waiting for that approval. And then, as you were saying, it's transactional. So he keeps saying, what does he have to do besides the site plan? The advice will go, as she described, go and get your indenture or the contract, which will be the lease agreement or whatever it is. Add it to your site plan to have a complete document. That's the only time he can proceed with the registration. Yes,
okay, let me just take some more questions here. This one says, how do you change land or change ownership of land if the owner is dead?
So if you are dead, if he died, he would have left either by way of letters of administration or by way of a probate. If he died by will, then he would have left it for somebody else. So then the person would then have the power to then have, you get it to him based on the documents, based on the probate, the will, letters of administration. He will do a vesting asset. Then it transfers ownership from the dead man to, if it's his children, if whoever he wants to give it to.
Okay, we'll take the last batch of calls, because we have a lot of messages here on WhatsApp. We have a lot of messages as well on Facebook. We'll take the last batch of calls, but let me take this WhatsApp as we wait for the next call whilst we open the line. It says, do you all aggregate all lands, even those controlled by special organizations like TDC? Do you think the chiefs that partake in selling of lands really understand what land is left to sell? Is there a central depository that leases can be kept in a neutral place at the land division in case of a dispute? That's 3 questions in one you try to do. Nanama, I'll let you take the first 2. I think the first 2 is talking about chiefs and their role in sale of lands and whether or not they know how much land is left after selling what they've sold already, which is why we have double sales.
Yeah. The truth is, yes, many of our traditional leaders have very limited knowledge about land ownership itself, the types of interest in land that can be transacted, and the need for documentation of transactions. Because in our work across the country, we have found cases where some of the traditional leaders, through sensitization, get to understand that, oh, okay, so this is not how it is to be done. Oh, okay.
So it boils down to education, you say?
Education, yes.
Wow.
Awareness raising education.
Wow.
So that is why Polandef, in most of our programs, we aim at making sure that the traditional leaders who are involved in all the things we do get to understand at least the basic principles in land governance in Ghana and the legal provisions surrounding some of the land transactions they engage in.
There's still some of the questions, but there's somebody on the line. Enoch is calling us from Pantang. Hello, Enoch. Hello, Enoch.
Afternoon.
Enoch, please go ahead.
Okay, I want to contribute a little to the discussion.
You're on air.
Yes, I want to talk a little about acquisition of the documents, the indenture, and the other things that you talked about, which is also becoming the challenge for those who have acquired the land. I think right now, looking at how we can get a documentation is a big challenge. About the kind of people you see, the up and downs, and even the money you need to put in before you get all the documents. Hello.
We're having a bad line of sort there. Enoch, try and wrap up what you were saying. You're talking about the amount of money that goes into it. Is there a specific case you want an advice on? Enoch? I've lost Enoch. Malik is calling from Akenya. Malik. Malik, I don't know if I've lost you too, have I? If I have, do try and call back before we will close the phone lines on that one. But coming back to you, Ms. Anyedoho, so you help answer the last question from the first one that I read, the 3-in-1 question. Yes. He says, is there a central depository that leases can be kept in a neutral place at the land division in case of a dispute?
So if you come to, as you visited the Lands Commission today, you know that we have records where we keep copies of the registered documents. So is it for every region that registration takes place? Okay. We have a depository there where we keep copies of what is registered. Okay. That's it.
So you have, and then do you all aggregate land? Do you aggregate all lands, even those controlled by special organizations like the TDC?
Well, so TDC's grant would have come from government. So government acquires, gives to TDC for a term. So all those ones are managed by the Lands Commission, but granted by TDC. So we will do the registration.
Okay. Rexford is calling from. Do we have Malik again? Malik from Afianya. Rexford is calling from Wa. Rexford, how can we help?
Yes, I want to find out, can someone register land after, hello?
Yes, go ahead, you're on air.
Yes, can someone register a land after acquiring all the certificates? And again, the landlord can say, yes, he wants to pay care of taking the land from you.
Okay, answers for him? No.
No, I mean, once you register,
it's yours.
It's yours, and it's yours for the term, for the period that has been agreed. So you just have to use it. In some cases, what happens is that people acquire it and they leave the land. They don't show presence on the land.
But if I bought it and it's for me,
no,
and I don't develop it.
But you see, we should have individual responsibility also for the acquisition that we have done. So show presence, protect the land whilst you hold the certificate also.
Okay, Rexford, I hope that this one helps you. She says to show presence. Like, you know, people plant things on the land. Yeah. You know, you can start a farm on the land if you're not ready to develop it. Do something. Yeah, so these are things that will alert people. If someone tries to do a double sale and sell it back to someone else, those people will know that there's problem here. There's a problem here, and they wouldn't want to be a part of it, hopefully, because I know people who don't mind.
And just to add a little bit to it, Rexford should read the indenture or the document that he has. There are clauses in them. And the clauses will advise you maybe develop after this number of years if you've not met that agreement. But the person cannot just come onto the land. You have to institute a court action in order to be able and give you an opportunity to remedy what we call the breach. So you should read the indenture that he has.
Okay, read the indenture, Rexford. John Eya is from Takrad, and I think after John Eya, I'll take my last caller. John Eya from Takrad. John, we're listening.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my problem is hello?
Yes, John, you're on air. We are listening.
Yeah, my problem is we're talking about indenture. What do you call the cadastral, right?
What do you call the what?
Indenture.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. You know that we have the site plan on the indenture, right? And then
we have the site plan on the indenture. It's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I acquire a land and maybe there's a land around me, people take advantage. I just want to people take advantage, and then if there's a land around. You understand? The person can easily, because with the plot number, the person can easily go to land and check if that land is for someone or if that land belongs to someone. If you go and there's no name and there's no register, the person can take advantage and start processing for the land because
so essentially stealing the land, land, even though it doesn't belong to them.
That's it. So how can you protect? Maybe if a family say you a land and the land is not being registered, and maybe we are the same area. You understand? Yeah, the person can just take advantage and go to the land with the numbers because the land numbers are just it's on the plan, so you can just see the number, maybe number so and so. This land, the owner is not coming, so let me check. Meanwhile, the owner has bought the land and paid the family. You understand? But because the owner is not coming to develop the land, one should take advantage and go to land. If there's no name, they start processing. So how can we do about this, please?
How can you go about this thing? Thanks for calling. So let's take your comments on this.
Well, he must understand that that's why we explained that essentially the site plan and then the indenture are what makes a transaction complete. In that indenture, what we call the indenture or the lease agreement, there's a portion that has a description of the site that must match the site plan. So it's not possible for you to just go on and say that this site plan is next to mine and I'll annex it to it. No.
I think what the point he's making is that, you know, it's very easy for you to start doing your development. And whilst you're doing it, you know this one is not covered. So you just
so that's on the ground. But whoever is granting, he knows the limits by which it's given to you. So you should be able to protect that. But documentation-wise, Lands Commission would register to the extent that which the site plan and the description in the deed all match. That's why both of them are together. We don't take the site plan as separate from the document. So that description you see there describes aptly what you have in the site plan. And it's both.
But I think just to add to that, what I also got from his question was that there are cases where people have acquired the land from a traditional leader, but have not gone ahead to do the registration at the Lands Commission. So if you should go to the Lands Commission now, there will be no records that someone has acquired. And therefore you would think that it's a vacant land you can take and maybe...
But it's actually not.
Exactly, it's actually not. And sometimes that is one of the causes of the, multiple sale or the litigation.
Yeah.
And that is why we said that, so when you are doing your investigation before the acquisition, don't rely on one source of the due diligence process. Rely on the Lands Commission search reports, but also do your own due diligence on the ground so that you can be well equipped.
Now, if you don't take anything at all from this conversation, do your diligence, your due diligence with the Lands Commission, but also get on the ground to find out what's happening. I'll do a bit of Facebook before I go, but this one says, how long does it take to register 100 by 100 plots major from Somanya?
So Somanya would lie in the...
So 100 by 100, that's what, very big, right?
Oh, 100 by 100 is 0.25 of an acre.
Yeah.
So that's averagely what we call one plot, but the size may vary.
Okay.
So he will do it in the Eastern Region office, and then it takes, the deed registration system is quicker. In 2 months max, he would have done both the stamp duty and then the registration, maybe 3 months max. But the deed registration system is quite quicker than the title system.
So about 3 months, you're there. What is the work of the Land Valuation Board?
So today when you came there, so we do what we call a stamp duty. It's like a tax on a transaction. And therefore, the Land Valuation Division, it used to be a board. But with the passage of the Act 767, which is the Lands Commission Act, it's now a division of the Lands Commission. So they take care of the stamp duty. And also do valuations for states and like they're the principal government valuers.
Okay.
They do that.
All right, let's go to Facebook now, and then I'll give Nanama a say on that. So let's go on Facebook right now, find out what's happening. Why do we have to follow too many procedures just to acquire a piece of land in Ghana? Averagely, how much does it cost to process a piece of land? It's interesting that you asked that question, because I have a question here that was asking how much it costs to do a search. That one I can tell you is about 55 cities.
For
Let's see, 55 cities to do a search for the first acre, and then subsequently 10 cities each for the subsequent ones. But the question that the Facebook person was asking was the entire process. Yes. I mean, we can let him take that since he's there, but if you have a comment on that.
I would like to hear her and then respond. Because of the disbelief that she
and I'm being sincere.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is that we have always fought to get public information. I mean, access to public information for the public.
It's
on
difficult.
Some of these, it's difficult. It's difficult. This question, how much will it cost to register a parcel of land? It's difficult to have it.
To have an answer.
To have an answer. I admit that the costs for the processing has a lot of indicators. A number of things influence the cost. The size of the parcel, whether it is an original transaction or a transfer or anything. So all those factors determine how much it will cost you. But I think that it should be possible for the Lands Commission, the state agency responsible for registration, to come up with some basic information on the cost for these transactions in the Lands Commission. But it's not there. And I'm waiting to hear what because it's not there.
Okay, Timothy, we're waiting to hear what you have to add.
I'm sure her frustration is more about the information not being, but Lands Commission doesn't set its fees. These are done by Parliament. So our fees are an ally of Parliament, which are available to the whole public. Now today you had the privilege of being in our office.
Yeah.
In improving or in responding to some of these challenges. That's why when you came to the Customer Service and Access Unit, which we have in about 5 to 6 regions now and are rolling out for the other regions, you have on the screen there the prices. You have an in-house bank. So there's more transparency in these fees that we complain about. It's not now shrouded in mystery as it used to be. And she explained.
I can relate. I saw it at the office today.
The challenge we have is an institution that has had baggage over the years. So people's lack of even trust, like she said, the search. If you meet some middle person or you went to give somebody and the person said 300 or 400 Ghana cedis, your trust is that he can do something exceptional for you within a period. But the price
person
is
makes
there.
250 cities profit.
But if you trust the system and you came, like you came today and you said, No, I've met people who have come and just trusted and put it out there. You get your response.
But you see, you can't blame people for feeling the way they feel because they're coming from somewhere.
That's why we have admitted that we've come with some baggage in the past. As we improve and make things more transparent.
So, like she's saying, there's still a lot of work to be done, and especially putting out information.
And we're
giving you this platform for free. We'll bring our invoice.
That's beautiful. And Lands Commission didn't have a running website. Now it does have, and there's a place where you can click and have a list of pricing. And yesterday she said something which is important about the customary land secretary. It was with work with organizations like Colandev that we had engaged, interacted with, and we found out that it was something that was important. From 3 or 4, now we are now at 84. There was not a legislation over it, but in the land bill that was read, now customary land secretaries will be legislated. So they have some backing by law, and therefore it will help us improve. So their interaction with us has been useful in helping us also improve access and information delivery to the public.
Okay, I'll go more. We also admit that, yes, we have been working very closely, not only with the Lands Commission, but even with the OASL and the ministry itself. And I must say that during the discussion, the consultations on the land bill, this issue about legislating the CLSs became very topical during the conversations because...
How was the result? Was it?
Yeah, so the parliament, as they accepted, in fact, we made a lot of arguments why it has to be in the legislation that every traditional area should have a customary land secretariat. And it has been accepted. The bill is now withdrawn, and we are hoping that when it is resubmitted, we will still have these provisions in them so that it will pass.
The workload is heavy. This one says, please, can you ask the land administrator when is the Land Commission going to do recruitment? Because most of the Land Commission offices across the country is in need of staff because they are not recruiting. Some of their offices have been closed down, especially the Land Valuation Division. He says, I am currently working with one of their offices in Bono region for some years now, and their staff have been retiring without replacement. Those of us who have completed our national service with them are still hanging around. This is Eric, and he says to please read his message. Eric, I've read your message.
Well, Eric's concerned there's been a strong case made to government on recruitment, and I'm sure by close of this year and also into next year, I'm sure they will see some recruitment being done across the country. In fact, I don't have the mandate to recruit, but I have the mandate to speak to what efforts that the Commission has made in making a case for recruitment.
Okay. Still a lot of WhatsApp messages, but let's do some justice to those on Facebook as well. So we go back to Facebook and get some more questions. Abubakar Imoro says, I bought a piece of land directly from a sub-chief in my area. But when I went to the Municipal Assembly for the site plan, someone's name was already in their document. Please, what should I do?
This in itself is a very confusing question, but we'll try to disintegrate it.
Okay, let's see.
The Municipal Assembly is in charge of planning. And they are
don't register?
No, attached to them will be what we call the land use and spatial plan, what we know as town and country planning. So I'm sure he's referring to going there and somebody other coming there and getting some permit or permission on the site. That doesn't amount to registration, and therefore the correct place would have been to go to Lands Commission to see what the ownership status is. It's also possible the person registered at Lands Commission before coming over to come and do, and it's good for him that at least he has this information. It gives you some advice on whether somebody has
the next steps to be taken. There was someone asking question about nationalizing the land of Ghana. Nanama.
It's a heavy political question.
It is very heavy, and yes. I have heard many stakeholders, I mean, presenting similar views. But I think what we need to recognize is that, yes, we have challenges in the land system in Ghana because of the way we have the dual system, the state system and the customary system. Okay. But that is not to say that we are in an unmanageable situation.
We can manage.
We can manage. We can manage. And it takes commitment from our state agencies, commitment from our traditional leaders, commitment from individuals. Because I always tell people that when someone is selling a piece of land and tells you it is hot cake, I mean, if it is hot cake, it has to be eaten by the person himself. So do not be attracted by such advertisements. When you are acquiring land, you have an individual responsibility to do due diligence.
Talking of acquiring land, this one says that how does the Land Commission regulate, and we'll come to you, but it says how does the Land Commission regulate the activities of real estate developers? Can we have a list of approved real estate developers? Do you have any thoughts on that before I come to the Land Commission?
It's a challenging area. In fact, when I was coming this afternoon, I noted it as one of the areas which is the cause of the litigation we have there. Because these real estate agencies don't, from my experience with them, don't have much understanding of the land system. I've had situations where a real estate company has acquired a leasehold interest from a chief for 70 years, and they have written an assignment to someone who is acquiring from them for 99 years. And
is that wrong? Is that legally wrong?
It's wrong. You can't give what you don't have. So
even if it's an oversight?
No, so it's
ignorance.
No, so that ignorance is what is causing the problem.
Okay.
Many of them don't have that knowledge, and they don't seek professional advice and support in managing the transfer of the parcels they have, and it creates a lot of tension.
Speaking of which, and we're ending this conversation with you again, they're asking for whether or not there's a list of genuine real estate
Land Commission's regulatory duty doesn't cover
real estate.
What they do is they have their graders and they have their associations. But there's a critical bill also, which is with the Ministry of Works and Housing now, which is the real estate brokerage bill. We should understand how the pharmacists solve their problem. When they found out that there were a lot of chemical shops and people were selling cold drugs and hot drugs, what they did was to pass the Pharmacy Council law, which regulated and said every pharmacy should have a trained pharmacist before your license is given. So it solved many problems. That's what the real estate and brokerage law will do. So that when you are coming to start a real estate company, there are certain professionals that are an essential ingredient of that practice. You rather be a lawyer or to be a surveyor, and that is critical. Once we're able to pass that bill, we can see that there will be somebody whose licensed professional will be held responsible if those things are not done. And I'm sure
then people will be more responsible. Wow.
And let the buyer be careful.
Yes,
individual responsibility is key.
Responsibility. I hope that we've answered as much as possible the questions that we've received on WhatsApp, on the phone lines, as well as on Facebook. We're continuing this discussion next week. In fact, we'll be doing it as much as possible. I mean, as many times as they will be available, we'll bring them here to answer some of these questions. I think that it will help put out the information so people don't get themselves in the troubles that we're seeing right now. Thank you so much for coming. And Nana Mayura is fascinated with the comment she has just seen. Okay, let's see. What does it say? Bribe and corruption is killing all of them. Okay. Let's leave it there. Okay, Nana Mayura is with Colandef. Colandef is an NGO there into land administration reforms. And Anidoho, Miss Anidoho, Timothy Anidoho is a principal administrative lands officer at the Lands Commission. Thank you so much for coming. Great information and great advice people have had.